Hi guys, remember that Electrolux 65 that I showed you in the Electrolux 83 video? Well, for some reason I restored it. So here it is, hidden under this amazing 1970s throw cover. So brace yourselves, here she is, post-restoration. Ta-da! Not looking too bad actually. Not looking too bad, but there may be a slight problem which I need to talk to you about later. Just let me get rid of this. It's a bit warm to have that on my lap. So yeah, this was absolutely knackered when I received it. It was in a real state. If you haven't seen the 83 video, go and check that out first. So you'll see this 65 in its unrestored state. And it was an absolute mess. It was so filthy as well. I have to say it's probably not the best restoration for numerous reasons. I was quite sort of hamstrung for what I had to work with originally. It's not come out too bad, I'm not going to moan. It only cost me, I think it was £15, so you know, you can't moan too much for 15 quid. So I've actually had to write down everything that I did to it. It took absolutely ages to do it. So the first thing I did was to fit a new flex to it. Now obviously this is a modern cable. I don't actually have the proper cable for a 65. The machine has like a plug back here, which I'll show you in a minute. So you can actually remove the cable on this machine. I don't have one, so I needed to be able to power it. And I did it in quite a sympathetic way, so I can undo what I've done should I ever get a proper 65 flex in. I doubt that will ever happen, but we live in hope. I had to recreate the internal wiring loom because it was an absolute mess. The original cables inside were they were rubbish. For some strange reason they used steel wire to connect everything up, and it gets so rigid, and it's really hard to get everything back together because you need to be able to remove this end from the motor end frame, disconnect the wiring in order to get everything back in. It's a real faff. I'd actually forgotten how difficult the 65 is to work on. It is made in such a way that it is really quite tricky. What else did I have to do? Yes, the main thing that I had to sort out was a broken fan. And I've got the fan here, the original fan, so I will show you that shortly. I had to fit a replacement fan to it, which it's really strange. I managed to find a fan in my pile of spares. It's not an original 65 fan, it's a modern fan, so it's much thinner than the original one. And the way the 65's fans are, they have attached spacers to them. So I had to fabricate replacement spacers in order for the new fan to fit. And that is really the main issue with this cleaner post-restoration. Again, I will show you that shortly. It's worked, but it kind of hasn't worked. You'll see soon. I had to service the motor and oil the bearings. The motor was absolutely caked in dust. You could see on the original fans that they were just absolutely coated as well. Each vane had a massive amount of dust on it. All the dust had gone through into the motor, it had gone into the bearings. It was a real state. I took out the original suppressor that was in it. They are renowned for blowing up. And actually the one on this was on its way out. It hadn't gone yet, but in a few more uses it would have gone pop, which is never pleasant. I repaired the end casing as well. If you remember when you saw it in the 83 video, this was all smashed here. This end cover was all smashed. Amazingly, the bits of plastic were actually still with the cleaner. They were inside this end cover. So I managed to rebuild all of this, and I've bent the skids back to how they should be. That was a big task. And finally, it was a clean and polish, and the machine was filthy. It was absolutely filthy. And this vinyl is quite difficult to clean because it's all ridged. You can hear the ridges as I run my fingernails over it. The only way you can clean this effectively is with a toothbrush and some all-purpose cleaner, and then some cream cleaner to really get the stubborn dirt off. That took forever. It was such a long time to get this back to, well, any kind of semblance of looking decent. I also polished all the chrome bits as well. So you've got the chrome ridges here, you've got the aluminium to hold the face on, and then chrome coated skids as well. That took ages. There's a lot of scrubbing involved in that. So as I said about the fan issue, I just want to show you the original fan that I took off the machine and the absolute state it was in. Here's the 65's original fan. Now this is in an absolutely terrible state. You can see that all the dust and muck has got stuck to the vanes. If I just give that a little wiggle there, you actually see it fall out onto the table. Now what this has done is it's caused a massive amount of vibration on the fan. And if you look here and if you follow the tabs around, you can see where the vanes are. So the vanes flow from the centre here. They're quite big on this machine. They go all the way out to the edge there. So that's the actual vane of the fan there. Now what's happened in the case of this one is this vane starts here, it goes on, and then this little tab has gone through, and then it's actually given way. So this vane ends there. So the amount of noise that this would have caused, because the fan's out of balance now, it's spinning around at probably around 20,000 RPM. With this bit of vane missing, it's going to be absolutely horrendous. And something else that's happened on this one, I've never seen this before in my 30 plus years of looking at vacuum cleaners. You see the distortion here to the fan on this side. This vane that runs up here has again given way. But what someone has done, and it wasn't me, I swear to God it wasn't me, has put a U-shaped holder in. They've taken a little bit of steel here, they've bent the end there, they've pushed it down and through, past the vane, out the other side, come round and come back up, and actually that isn't now doing anything at all, probably because this is really bent. But I think what their plan was, it's crazy, was to put this little bit of U-shaped metal in to hold the vane in place. It hasn't worked at all, because look, you see there that it's actually distorted. The vane is it's bent upwards, because this is flying around at 20,000 RPM, as I say, and the forces that are exerted on this very thin metal are massive, and this has actually started to move out. So it's bent on this point here, where this piece of thin steel is trying to hold it in. Yeah, this would have been the racket this would have created would have been unbelievable, and it is actually incredibly surprising that the motor survived this. I suspect that it survived only because the 65 uses the same spring-mounted motor. There's 8 springs in there, 4 springs for the motor field coil to the fan casing, and then 4 more springs for the field coil to the machine's casing. I suspect those springs did their absolute best to absorb the vibration that would have been caused by this. Anything else, any other machine, would have torn itself to pieces. I never actually heard it with this running. I wasn't daft enough to turn it on before taking it apart, but my God, that would have been something else. This side missing, this side with an extra bit of steel here, this vane bent and broken and pushed up. I mean, it's mad. It is absolutely mad. It's actually out of shape as well. It should run smoothly that way, but it doesn't. It runs like it's a much sharper angle. It's bent here. It's bent at this point. It's bent that way. Ugh, it's mad. It's absolutely mad. I've never seen anything like it. So when the new fan was put on, I thought, fantastic. And it felt tight on the shaft. It felt good, and I thought, yes, this is going to work. But it sort of kind of hasn't worked. The problem I've got with it is that it's very difficult to get a replacement fan on the shaft tight with the correct spacers or replacement spacers that actually work with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the machine on now. It's plugged in. I'll turn it on. Have a listen to what happens when I press the switch, okay? You can hear it. You can hear the problem. So listen out. So that is actually getting worse. So what's happening is that the motor starts, and because the fans are ever so slightly loose, the motor spins up first, and then the fans start. So what's happening there is that the shaft of the motor is actually wearing away the metal on the fans because they're loose. And in order to fix that, I'm going to have to take everything apart again, disassemble the entire motor, and redo the spacers that I made for it. It's a real pain in the bottom. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I can be bothered to do that. I'm not really going to use this cleaner. It's just, it's part of the collection until a better one comes along. But if we hit the switch again, listen for this. And there's a definite vibration on rundown as well. You can hear it, it's because the fans are not tight on the shaft. It is a real shame. I put so much time and effort into this for it to end up with that problem. It's all destroying. But yeah, if I've got some time, I will probably do it again. I just want to show you what I've done with the flex entry here. As I say, I've saved the original socket on the machine, so I can use a normal Lux 65 cable should I ever get one. Here's the tail end of the 65, so I can just show you how I've managed to put this new cable in. If I turn it over, it'll probably be easier to show you that way. So there is the original plug for the original cable, and what I've done is I've drilled a hole through the middle of that plug and routed the new flex through it. So that means that when the time comes that I can get rid of this, I can actually take this out, and all that's left will be a hole in the middle of that little bit of black plastic there. So everything remains, which means it's reusable. You can see here as well the massive crack that occurred in transit and broke the end casing. It's absolutely huge. So yeah, this is good. It's always good to do things that you can undo as well, just to keep the originality of the machine. So, with that all being said, I guess we should try and give it a go. I haven't actually vacuumed with this cleaner yet. There's no paper bag in this because I haven't got the bag holder or anything, so we're just going to be using the cloth bag. We have got an exhaust filter on this one, which is pretty good actually. The exhaust filter on the 65 was actually quite good for its time. It's a much thinner material, so better at catching the dust. When I got the machine, I didn't get any tools with it at all. There was no hose, no rods, floor tool, nothing. So we're going to use the hose from the 302 again, and the rods as well. One rod rather. It was very, very useful. God bless that 302. Its hose is very useful indeed. And as I mentioned previously, this particular 65 has had the conversion done to it. So it's got the 3 lug fitting on it as opposed to the original ball bearing hose that it would have had when it came out of the factory. So that's really useful. And we'll also use the floor tool from the Electrolux 90. So the 90's floor tool is exactly the same as what the 65 would have. So we're kind of almost there with the toolkit. Yeah, it's functional. It'll do for the purposes of giving it a run. So with that being said, let's get the machine into the lounge. Let's do some cleaning with it. Let's hope those fans last. This could be interesting. If the fans give way when the machine is running, we'll have an almighty nasty sound. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen.